Today was kind of a hard day, is that I just kind of had a hard time, just getting started with anything, just trying to find anything to start to do and work on. Um, Even though I know I've got another page of the manga, and I have a lot of the main book to finish, though we're actually mostly finished with the Baron's Wasteland at this point.
Mostly done. The last thing we would need to do is just a bit of polishing.
hmm So, I took a long nap, and I didn't even think I was going to wake up from it. I was having some very vivid dreams. I think the main thing about it was just a lot of unpacking junk, just a lot of, dreams where I'm just taking trash out of the closet and off of my shelves. And it was that a couple of days ago I was unpacking, like, literally the last two boxes that were still taped up after I had moved.
Hmm.
hmm
Yeah, have
Yeah.
you ever had one of those those sleeps? Like when you wake up, you're compact and you're like, what year is this?
Um, well, not really, but anytime I do have a dream, I wake up have being somewhat convinced that that was real life.
Yeah, exactly. Like you
Uh,
would think that something happened, but you can't tell
uh,
what it is.
yeah. Well, then I wake up and I'm in my room, and yeah, I can pretty much say that I'm more than a little disappointed that the dream wasn't a thing.
Hmm.
And so I woke up. I had an hour to eat dinner, so I had my fruit salad and a couple of pairs of bunless hot dogs, and then I took a whole slice of Village Inn pie, and I ate a whole slice of a tres leches cake that we were trying to give to a friend, but they decided not to come by the house for that.
Well, I pretty much spend most of my day just hanging around with my new friend here at
hmm
midnight. We're
Midnight.
just hanging around each other. We're getting comfortable with each other.
hmm
And of course, me desperately trying to use my keyboard.
I mean, you didn't get them as a kitten, which is fortunate because then you can bypass that one period of time where they're using your upper arm as a scratching post.
Yeah, pretty much. She's 6 months old. She was already potty trained because she was at an animal shelter for a little while.
Oh wow! You mean it is like she's using the litter box, or is she actually using the facilities?
Yeah, she's actually using the litter box,
hmm
how a cat that you would expect has been completely potty trained.
Yeah.
It will uses a litter box.
Yeah. All right. So there's always been a pretty easy way. That's always been pretty easy to do, simply because it's just part of a cat's natural instinct in order to bury their crap.
Yeah. Also, we got this neat cat tower, which pretty
hmm
much also has the bit where it's a scratching post.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
Well, this is the thing. I once gave a cat a scratching post, and they almost never used it. They just continued to sharpen their claws on the couch. It's
Hmm.
just as soon as they've already gotten used to that.
Yeah, basically.
hmm All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take our first break. We're gonna go from that to the videos, and then we're going to go ahead and we're gonna start tonight's show.
All right.
So we'll be right back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this 2-minute word from Twitch.
You put your cat, put your cat in there so she won't jump. Oh. Step under my feet.
She just took a bite out of my bread!
You know, it's... You don't usually have cats with the inclination to eat anything.
And I know this is my food. You have your food.
I said, to know that food is food.
Yeah, this happened earlier, actually. Like, pretty much she just slowly walked over to me. She like, slowly and carefully, like, picked up a slice of cheese, and then just casually walked away.
So, I say, where you got this cat from the shelter is that, I wonder if it was, like, picked up stray or something like that, because that's where they get really, really accustomed.
I think it was, like, mentioned that this was someone, like, who turned in this cat because they couldn't keep it anymore.
Alright. Well, maybe it was because of the food thing. I don't know. I'm not a cat psychologist.
Yeah, I want to know. Besides, like, cats are cats.
Yeah. Alright, well, let's go ahead and let's go to the tape. Hello, my name is Brainy the RPG Cat, and this is the Library of Dinah, Goddess of Infinite Knowledge. In this library, we keep every book about every realm that has ever existed on Earth, in space, and in dimensions that defy all human comprehension. And it has become my duty to introduce you to the multitude of worlds, cultures, and heroes found in every known corner of the multiverse. But hey, that doesn't mean it has to be boring. Luckily for all of you, I'm also a big fan of tabletop role-playing games. So grab your dice and your scrap paper and belly up to the table, because this middle-aged neurodivergent cat nerd is about to take you on the ride of your life. Roll initiative, bipeds!
Brady, the RPG Cat. Meow. This feelers, caddis is the raddest, has skills of the baddest, magic, slinging for status, practically unmatched, runs all of the gamut, in fact, he's a reference games and chatting, bent wizardly hatting, questing, stacking, napping, this cat witty banter, seeking kitty answers, roll 20 to scamper, tune in, and enjoy the ride. Brady, the RPG Cat. Brady, the RPG Cat.
Also, you know that thing that cats do, like, making biscuits?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. She pretty much does that when she's standing on my chest before she lays down on said chest.
Yeah. So, usually that's kneading, and that's actually a means in order to actually create a bond with, well, usually with other cats, but...
Aw, she loves me.
Yeah, she thinks you're his mama. Anyways, hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Brainy the RPG Cat. So today is going to be a very special episode, because we, for the very first time, we actually have had somebody give us a prototype of a game.
Yeah, but what that means is that it's not completely out yet.
So the book that we're about to show you is that it's an early version of the book. Some things about it might be changed in the final version. That is a very important thing in order to bring out. But
Yeah, it's really important.
But this was also given to us by the independent publisher of this book, Scalebound Games, who I've got the Blue Sky up for them right now.
Yeah.
So they're getting ready in order to put this book through Kickstarter. So the very first thing that we're going to be looking at tonight is we're going to be looking at the High Winds Kickstarter on Scalebound Games. And yeah, let me give you a screen share for this.
All right.
All right. So begin, the promotional section of tonight's show. Welcome to High Winds. Fly through the skies, embracing a life of piracy, adventure, and exploration. So, High Winds is a steampunk fantasy RPG filled with airships and sky pirates. Play as a group of adventurers who can be pirates, traders, soldiers, or just inquisitive folks trying to solve the mysteries of Astra. Play in a world that is filled with tension between factions, cultures, and creatures of the sky. Unbound exploration that focuses on the stories of your adventures and the high-stake antics that they get up to. High Winds is inspired by Skies of Arcadia, Treasure Planet, and all manner of pirate content from the last 20 years.
Yeah, or even more.
And so let me see. So right now is that when this is in the launch phase, is that you can go ahead and set a bookmark on Kickstarter to notify you of the beginning of the launch, and so know that when you might start to go through this and be able to participate in the Kickstarter. So, all right. So let's go ahead. Let's go from the to the playbook.
Yep, now we're going to be explaining what we're promoting here with this current prototype of the High Winds, yeah?
So, yeah, this is High Winds. This is the playtest version of it. You know how it's the playtest version of it?
Yeah.
Because it says playtest right there on the cover, and all the
Yeah,
pages as well. So,
pretty
designed by Kirian Statch. There still needs to be the remaining credits still need to be written. So here is the preamble. I tried to settle down for a while. Once I made a quaint little home in a sleepy little town, made some good solid friends, and tried my hand at a nice sleepy lifestyle. That was nice for a couple of months, even if I was surrounded by people so unlike myself. I did keep an eye open though. I couldn't rest until I knew the town was safe every night. Yeah, I remember how we left that town one night. I saw a bird. Surely a bird. I really wanted it to be just a bird, but it got bigger, then multiplied completely unlike a bird. Blasted, it was definitely the entire armada. 5 or more airships. I didn't even need to pack. I grabbed my rucksack, my weapons, and dashed out the door into the town. I shouted and banged on doors, rousing as many people as I could to give them warning of the bombardment to come. The armada wouldn't have been arriving with diplomacy in mind, because they never are. When I came to the door of my friend Arya, I had a brief moment of hesitation. She didn't really care for anybody there but me and her daughter Tara. In a split second, I knew the right thing to do. "Come with me," I yelled. She grabbed her child and ran. Explosions had begun to land behind us as we ran hand in hand out of town. We were so fast, but not fast enough. I didn't even see Arya fall. I just felt her push her daughter into my arms. "Take her!" I buried Tara's face into my shoulder so that she wouldn't see the town fall apart behind us as I ran. Luckily for us both, I never quite got the hang of settling down. That sleepy town lifestyle had never seemed quite right for me, and something had kept me holding on to my old ship. Out of my pocket, I pulled a precious moon crystal to fire up the engines, and we stepped up into our new home. Tara sat right there on the seat behind me as the ship sputtered to life and we set off. I had no idea where we'd go or what the future held for us. Actually, here's the credit page. Okay.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
It's it looks like things just went from like a 0 to 100 real quick.
So, Kirian Statch, game designer and layout, artists Irene Cabrejas, William McCausland, and Becca Fitzgerald, with testers Ryan Giannis, Brian Houston, Daniel Pickering, Wade Driver, Ronald Kreutzer, Keelan Smith, Eric Noble, and Natasha Saz. You know, I actually know a Keelan Smith. I wonder if it's the same one. All right. So, the setting. After a cataclysmic event on Astra, a small population of the world is forced to move to the highest mountains. Most of the world's surface becomes unattainable. The people who survived took what little they had and developed ships that could sail the skies using solar sails. Most of the knowledge from the old world is gone, including any information about the event that led everyone into the highest reaches. Clouds cover what the old world, and it is extremely dangerous to venture below them. Almost all that do are never heard from again. That said, there is mountains of treasure for those who seek it, even in the other world. Players and characters. Players in the High Winds portray adventurers seeking to look adventure, glory, and power, or any combination. Each character will have their own wants and desires in the world of Astra and will bring different skills and viewpoints to the crew of the ship. The players and the GM will craft a story together through the adventures that take the place at the table. Characters in the story will form together to sail a ship through the skies, carving out adventure for themselves, finding treasure, and possibly becoming heroes or villains along the way. There are several classes your characters can be: engineers, moon mages, smugglers, soldiers, swashbucklers, and trader. Okay, so your ship, every crew needs a ship. Early on, your group will get a ship, either as part of the story, or maybe you can start with one. Little bit of a throw bubble there. This will be up to the players and GM how they want it to go. The ship can be upgraded, maintained, and acts almost as a character for itself. Not every ship will be the same either. There will be different armors, speeds, weapons, add-ons, and sizes that will change how you and your crew run the ship. There's no best way how to build up your ship, so experiment with what your crew finds fun. So, this is a setting where we are mostly deploying the use of airships in a steampunk setting, and the significant thing about that is that, as we just read in the premise, that we're not allowed to set foot back into
essentially, this seems to be a post-apocalyptic steampunk setting.
Mm. And so, there is a few elements of this that, immediately remind me of the Dungeons and Dragons space setting, which is, what was it called? I have been so far removed from D&D, I'm starting to forget the terms now, but it's also, basically the fact is that they're using schooners and they're using them in outer space, like ship-style ships. And so this is basically that, except we're still in the upper atmosphere, we're not in outer space.
Yeah, we're pretty much it's like we're in the ozone layer.
So, do you have any experience with steampunk as a genre?
Yeah, much. Steampunk was seen as something really popular, or something to be portrayed in all sorts of different kinds of media, especially with things like time travel.
Mm-hmm. So, for a very long period of time, I used to participate in steampunk conventions. I was a staff member of the major one that lasted about 4 years. And then afterwards, I did 2 or 3 guest attendances at the current one for Colorado, which is named WhimsyCon.
Yeah, and pretty much, from everything that I've seen, what I gather is, the basics for, steampunk is to be in some sort of setting with pretty much a very low to none actual technology,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever inventions were being made, where you use with copper, steam, and also those things are a very early animation where it's you spin a wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and the picture moves as the wheel spins, something.
Yeah,
I think it's the first animation, I think.
Well, my easy way of explaining it is that if you take the science fiction settings that were put forth by H.G. Wells, who wrote The Time Machine, and War of the Worlds, then basically you have steampunk. It's really an idea of what future technology would be if it was still written from a late 18th, early 19th century perspective.
Yeah, basically, like if all those like drawings of what people of the past thought the future would be, things like riding crocodiles to get to basic places, is and just figured that kind of thing would actually happen.
Yeah, and also just kind of any kind of situation where you actually have to invent the technology and put it into this setting. What immediately comes to mind is, I mean, there's that one scene in Men in Black 2 where they can't get to the actual machine that restores somebody's memory, so they just go to one that's out in the back room of a thrift store, and it's just kind of made out of different home appliances that is thrown together. Things like the airships in Final Fantasy, where everything is just part of a fantasy setting except for the airships that, help you to fast travel across the overworld.
Yeah, I remember like seeing in like Phineas and Ferb, where like it was like some sort of makeshift communication and device, but instead of like a hologram like showing in like the spy movie things. Instead, it was like a wheel popped up, and like I told you, like that animation wheel was used to like show like the face of the person that was like speaking.
Yeah, and that episode is also very significant because it has Professor Elemental, who is a rap artist who uses steampunk in his aesthetic as English-based, but travels the greater majority of steampunk conventions and doing shows.
Yeah, exactly. And also it was explained like in like the same scene with that wheel, like there was another wheel for like the intern guy, and when the main guy actually questioned him, why is your wheel and animations look way cooler than mine, because his was way smoother, while the original was a bit choppy, and so like it was answered by saying, it's not cooler, sir, it just has more frames. Pretty much how it was actually, actually was for like how animation like started up in the first place.
Is that they were using more frames in that scene, whereas they would be fewer frames if it were an earlier version of animation.
Exactly, like an earlier thing would have a wheel that was like pretty choppy, with not a lot of frames, as well. All the later the more advanced kinds would have wheels that would be much smoother, because they would have more frames.
See, my favorite joke like that actually came from, gosh, what was that other series? Milo Murphy's Law. Is that Doofenshmirtz actually manages to make a machine that turns objects to life, and is saying, well, no, you can't really say it's coming to life. Life implies the existence of a soul, maybe some free will. A better explanation for this would be that they have been animated, and also very well storyboarded.
Oh yeah. That actually is a pretty good explanation. And
all right, so basics. What is role-playing? High Winds is a tabletop role-playing game. The basic idea is you and your group of people get together to tell an interactive story of characters that each of you makes up. You pick what your character does, how they do it, why they want to do it, and involve them in the story with everyone else's character. Through role-playing, you'll participate in fighting, planning, and conversation. Not every session will have all three, and some sessions, even full campaigns, will focus on one of those elements over another. Not everything just happens because you say it does, though. A GM, Game Master, will tell you when they need you to roll the dice and will make decisions based on the rules to help you guide the play. If you're new, it is best to be a player rather than a GM. If you're all new, picking someone who wants to be the storyteller for a group is a good start. It can be a big time commitment out of session. So, well, you need to play between 3 and 5 people, an adventurer sheet, 1 for player, and some extra paper for note-taking, d6 dice, preferably 8 per person. You'll need as many dice as your character has in their top skill. You'll find out more about this later in the book. And tokens to represent luck points, poker chips, glass beads, or anything similar will work. You'll want to have at least 30 or more of these on hand just to make sure you have enough for any given time. You can use pencil marks on your character sheet in lieu of tokens, but physical tokens and a little bit more fun. In any game of High Winds, you're either a player or a game master. If you're a player, your primary job is to take responsibility for portraying one of the protagonists of the games, which we call a player character. You make decisions for your character and decide for everyone else what your character says and does. You'll also take care of the mechanical side of your character, rolling dice when it's appropriate, choosing what abilities to use in a situation, and keeping track of luck points. Both players and game masters also have a secondary job: make everyone around you look awesome. Now, High Winds is best as a collaborative endeavor with everyone sharing ideas and looking for opportunities to make the events as entertaining as possible. All right. So the example game, all of our rules in this book refer to the same example and setting. The game is called Hearts and Steels, a tongue-in-cheek fantasy romp about a group of troubleshooters for hire. They traipse about the countryside and get into trouble at the behest of various petty kings and fife lords who hire them. Their participants are Ryan, Alex, Sean, and Kaylin. Sean is the GM. Ryan plays a daring swashbuckler, always taking risks, named Cian. Alex plays a feisty cannoneer named Organ, who never refuses a sky ale. Kaylin is the snarky moon mage who likes sarcasm as much as magic. They're sailing the Cork Sparrow, a small, speedy wooden ship with solar sails. Okay, so this is the adventure sheet, but we actually managed to get a updated character sheet just before we went on the air. And so from what we can see here is that you have a portrait, a name. We have dials for physique and mental abilities, some of which says that, are which denotes the total amount of points you have and then the maximum amount of points that you have. So there's a possibility for physical and mental abilities to actually get a little bit lower during gameplay.
Seems like it.
So with this game, like with a lot of other current games, they have a sense of injury either being very minor or extremely major to the extent of losing limbs. And so this is mild, moderate, and severe counters for the amount of damage that you have personally taken.
And to explain what these sorts of ranges in damage and the results of that damage you mean, pretty much mild, well, anything below that would be you just have a bruise. It won't be too bad. However, severe will mean you're going to be in a wheelchair for a long time.
Well, you're missing a limb, and then you're just missing a limb for the whole game. Things like that.
Yeah.
So wealth is split up into two. There's 22 pockets of regular wealth slots, and then the remainder is a hoard, which is basically the entirety of the treasure you probably scooped up from a specific area and is more than likely just resting on the ship.
Yeah, most likely in some kind of vase or something. Probably something wacky like Mr. Krabs if he was in some kind of steampunk setting.
As Mr. Krabs, why did you get into this steampunk setting? Money. Yeah, I thought that was going to be easy enough to answer, but all right. So basic skills: agilities, burglary, cannons, crafts, creatures, deceits, diplomacies, exploration, guns, helmsman, lore, magic, notice, physique, sailing, shipwrights, stealth, swords, trade, and will.
Seems pretty typical.
And then finally, here at the very top here, we have physical defense and we have mental defense, which is a stat that's different from your actual ability to have offensive physical and mental abilities. So skills are what you use during the game to do complicated or interesting actions with dice. Each character has a number of skills that represent his or her basic abilities, including things like perceptiveness, physical prowess, professional training, education, and other measures of abilities. At the beginning of the game, the player characters have skills rated in steps from average to great. Higher is better, meaning that the character is more capable or succeeds more often when using that skill. If for some reason you need to make a roll using your skill your character doesn't have, you can always roll it at mediocrity, which is a 0 point. There are a couple of exceptions to this, like magic skills that most people don't have at all. We'll talk about that in greater deal in this own chapter. So, example, Daxibus the Moon Mage has a magic skill at Great +4, which allows her to succeed more often than not when calling upon the power of the purple moon to alter the course of an event or sway a conflict. She does not have the cannon skill, so when she's the only one left on deck to fire the cannon, something may go awry, which is to say that would be a roll with no modification. It would be +0.
Essentially.
Mm-hmm. And since this is an all D6 scale, then you actually do need probably up to 4 additional points in order to be exceptional of something. Otherwise, you're not going to roll any higher than a 6.
Essentially, like this sort of scenario, that was given to us with skills, would be something similar to like trying to use a gun when you haven't had any previous gun training.
Mm-hmm. So talents or abilities your adventurer can use to alter something to your benefit. You can either get increased effort from a skill or negate the drawbacks of some actions. Some talents will require luck to use or may need to have special requirements to meet. Talents are what start to really set your adventure apart from the other with what you can accomplish in specific situations. Oregon has a talent called Chain Shot. It allows him to use a chain shot on a cannon to reduce the movement of an enemy ship for 1 round. So, resistance, 1 of 2 tracks you have to avoid losing a conflict. It represents temporary fatigue, getting winded, superficial injuries, and so on. You have a number of resistance levels you can burn off to help keep you in a fight, and they resent at the end of a conflict once you've had a moment to rest and catch your breath. So, consequences are the other option. You have to stay in a conflict, but they are more lasting impact every time you take a consequence. It puts a new effect on your sheet describing your injuries. Unlike resistance, you have to take time to recover from a consequence, and it's stuck on your adventurer sheet in the meantime, which leaves your adventurer vulnerable to complications or others wishing to take advantage of your new weakness.
So basically, like, if you are in a situation where you are not able to, rest recover through the consequences, you'll pretty much be looking like you have glass bones and paper skin. Every morning you break your arms, and every afternoon you break your legs, and then now you lay awake in agony until your heart attacks put you to sleep.
And if you just dare to venture to continue to do the 50-mile dash after you have been shot in the leg.
Yeah, it's most likely that leg is probably going to snap.
You're going to spend the rest of this, the entire play campaign with a little bit of a limp.
No leg if you keep going.
Mm-hmm. All right, so refresh the number of luck points you get at the start of every game session to spend for your character. Your total resets this. Your total resets to this number unless you have more luck points at the end of the last session. So, so what they're basically saying is that, well, we're using luck points the same way that we would use inspiration in this situation. If you had more than your standard amount of luck points at the end of your last situation, they would roll over to the next. But if you have 0, then it's just going to go back to your default number. So the contacts, a list of contacts are important people your adventurer meets during the game. You'll either put pluses or minus against them to depict their relationship to you. That is to say that you have a advantageous or disadvantageous relationship with any of the NPCs you might potentially meet. So defense is your adventurer's passive ability to block incoming attacks. You will both have a mental and physical defense, which is derived from a certain skill. Each job has different skills that they use to make their defense stats, such as a swashbuckler using agility for physical defense, but a soldier using physique.
Essentially, the difference here is that the one that's using, the dexterity and athleticism is more like dodging, while the soldier thing would be more like what would be more like exterior armor, taking the hits for him.
Well, I have no doubt that depending on which class you pick, that's basically the stat that you use for your defense modifier.
Yep, basically.
So, players, some of the things you'll need to do in a high winds game require you to roll dice to see if your character succeeds or not. You'll always roll a dice when opposing another character with your efforts, or when there's a significant obstacle in the way of your efforts. Otherwise, just say what your character does and assume that it happens. So, when you need to roll dice in high winds, you'll roll 1 die plus the bonus of your skill. You'll read the outcomes of the dice for your total outcome. So, this is actually pretty interesting because you'll roll 1 dice and then add the bonus of your skill. Okay, well, actually, yeah, that just sounds like the dice and a bonus. I thought there was actually the ability to roll an additional die, but, you know, well, that still remains to be seen. All right. So, when you roll a dice in a high wind, let me see. According to this chart right now, rolling a 1 actually gives you a -1, 2 or 3s are 0, neutral, 4 to 5 will give you a +1, and then 6 will give you a +2. So, there's a +1 modifier on anything that's a 4 or 5, and then a +2 on the 6. All right. So, the ladder in the high winds, we use a ladder of adjectives and numbers to rate the dice rolls, a character's skills, and a result of a roll. +8 would be legendary, 7 epic, 6 fantastic, 5 superb, 4 great, 3 good, 2 fair, 1 average, 0 mediocre, -1 is poor, and -2 is terrible. So, you would do it in average amount if you had no modifier. If you had a 1 and then you had 1 taken away from the 1, then it would be 0, then you do it the normal way. But if you actually manage to get that to go into negative, that's when you get into critical territory.
It's essentially with, if you actually do get, like, a roll that pretty much has, like 8 or more, or, like, pretty much what would result in that would be something, pretty much so successful and epic that it would probably cause God himself to come down for the heavens, give you an award along with $1,000.
And my respect.
And my respect.
This situations like this, I wish I put an echo on my mic. And my respect.
And my respect.
All right. It doesn't really matter which side of the ladder you use. Some people remember the words better. Some people remember the numbers better. And some people like using both. So you can say, I got a great or I got a +4. And it means the same thing. As long as everyone understands what you're communicating, you're fine. Okay. Interpreting the results, when you roll dice, you're trying to get a high enough roll to match or exceed the challenge rating. The challenge rating is going to come into one of 2 forms. Active challenge from someone rolling dice against you. Passive challenges from an obstacle that has just set a rating on the ladder for you to overcome, or from an opponent's defense skill. Generally speaking, if you match or exceed your opposition or challenge rating, you succeed at your actions. If you exceed by a lot, something extra happens, like doing more harm to your opponent in a fight. If you roll lower, either you don't succeed in your action, you succeed at a cost, or something else happens to complicate the outcome. Some game actions have special results when you fail at the roll. Major actions, most actions in the game will result in being a major action, that is attacking, abilities and skills that you use. Minor actions, some items and spell require less time to complete, thus making them a minor action. These can be done alongside your major action. So, action types, moving actions. Luck points is that you use tokens to represent how many luck points you have at any given time during play. Luck points are one of your most important resources in the high winds. They're a measure of how much influence you have to make the story go in your character's favor. You can spend luck points to change your roles, help your crew, or use specific talents. You can gain luck points in the following ways. The GM uses your trouble against you in some way. The GM arbitrarily gave you luck for something you did in game. An enemy scores critical success on you. And a word of warning, don't use edible things as tokens, especially if the food hasn't arrived yet. So, I can say with a certain amount of pride, I have never eaten one of my counters. I mean, they've also kind of never actually been made out of food, but it is definitely something I've never done.
Absolutely, something like that. And that's sort of a kind of, group, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it's possible. I think one time I played a game of um, King of Tokyo while using some rat pieces of candy as our betting tokens, but well, they were still rats by the end of the game, so nothing happened there.
Yeah, basically.
So spending luck lets you reroll up to 2 dice of your roll. Use special abilities that require luck to do. Defend another player in the same zone as you, or declaring a story detail. So that's one of 4 options you would be spending luck for.
Yeah.
So, declaring a story detail, sometimes you want to add a detail that works to your character's advantage. For example, you might use this to narrate a convenient coincidence, like retroactively having the right supplies for a certain job, showing up at a dramatically appropriate moment, or suggesting that you and the NPC you just met have mutual clients in common. To do this, you'll spend a luck point. GMs, you have the right to veto any suggestions that seem out of scope, or ask the player to revise them, especially if the rest of the group isn't buying into it. So, this is probably the first time where I have actually heard inspiration is effectively retroactively adding things to a player's inventory. So I'm a little bit suspect about that, but also at the same time, it does sound very interesting.
Yeah, so although like I could see like equipment is like, you know, basic things that you have. You know, like you know, things that you would have to carry. You probably wouldn't count like, you know, clothes, but like things like tools, weapons, magical items, or whatever.
It's like in those like in the Three Stooges short. If anybody ever says, "Hey, anybody got any dynamite?"
Oh yeah, basically.
One person is
like,
gonna have
you
dynamite.
don't like dynamite?
Mm-hmm. One person is gonna have dynamite, and most likely it is going to be the Curly. So there you go.
Yeah, essentially, and you absolutely know that it's gonna come out of thin air.
Mm-hmm. So equipment is used as an enhancement, or in very unique circumstances it can be detriment to certain activities you try and do. Your adventurers will most likely wear armor, shields, or have weapons that will alter the value of dice rolls or negate the results of dice rolls against them. Equipment can have any numbers of enhancements or detriments. Later on in the adventure, you may want a helmet that decreases attacks against the adventurers held by negative points on the dice roll, and decrease any weapon that requires precision aim by negative points. If you want a list of suggested equipment, see the equipment section near the end of the book. Okay, another example. Nexibus has magic at grade +4 and has a glove of burning imprints that increases any spell that uses fire. She's decided to cast Fireball and rolls 1 +4 from magic plus another 2 dice from the glove of burning imprints for a total of 7 dice. Excuse me. Okay, note to self, never have a piece of tres leches cake before going on stream ever again. Alright, so game creation. The Highlands is all about telling stories. These stories are a combination of both the GM and the players added to the lore in your world. Whenever you use the world and lore provided in the book, or you are making your own story from start to finish, the stories and impact the players will change this world, so every play will feel unique. Letting the players guide the story is going to be more fun than locking in something that no one wants to participate in. The GM should try and offer adventures that let the players showcase their unique abilities and try not to punish their weaknesses. There is time to punish a weakness, but let's not make it the theme. Senses of adventure. Players in the High Wind should have a sense of adventure. There isn't always going to be a war off in the North Ocean that the players can react to. Willing to seek actions, treasure, and renown should be in the forefront of the adventurers' minds. I mean, offhandedly, I'd say, anything that involves piracy is invariably a very easy type of storyline to write about, because piracy could be anything. Piracy is just anything that you accept from any other person in an environment where everybody is actually trying to one-up each other. So,
basically it's a competitive robbery.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have to plagiarize the entirety of the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and call it Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Shots fired.
Exactly.
This may involve planning a heist, diving into a sunken temple, interrupting a trade route, and taking some precious cargo. There's a lot of opportunity in the world of Astra, and the player should go hunt from it. The character in the High Winds are all skilled adventurers. They've got to this point in their lives through different means of acquiring skill. So while a character may have a bad trait, they are by no means an unskilled civilian and should be treated as such in the world. These characters are likely to make big changes in the world that they're in. Whether they become famous from it or not is another thing. The good, the bad, and everything in between characters don't have to be good. What motivates each character is going to be different. This might create drama, which will enhance the story. The characters, like the people that play them, should interpersonal issues and personal struggles that motivate them in the lives that they live in this world. Not every moment is going to be filled with glamour and reward. Sometimes there will be hard consequences to what they decide, which makes them more real. So, of course, if you're playing my game, and you break the town law, you're going to have the entirety of the guard on your back. If you piss off a god, you're going to be turned into a hamster. Those really important.
Either that or the rest of the team is probably going to see a flash of lightning, only to turn to you and see like a black stain on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Those really important parts of overall game balance. Okay, so setting up the game, character creation, faction creation, NPCs and connections, and the ship. For factions, you will want to decide on factions in this world. The default list is provided in the book. Feel free to add your own and not use ones if they don't suit the campaign you want to run. The factions are not all similar in size. There are a couple of dozen people, while others span over cities and regions. They may be a religious group or a mercenary army. There's no limit to what constitutes a faction, just that they are a like-minded group of individuals. Once you've decided on the factions in the world of Astra or your own world, you'll want to assign their relationship to the adventurers. You can assign these manually to build up a narrative you wish to portray, or you can use a single d6 on each faction. Each time you roll, you will assign the result of the dice to that faction. This will lead to adventurers being either friendly, indifferent, or tolerated. The faction reputation table goes from honored to hostile. Honored meaning the adventurers are very welcome inside the holding, and hostile most likely means that they'll be attacked on sight. So, reputation table, once again, based on the modifiers. +2 would be honored, +1 would be friendly, none would be indifferent, -1 would be tolerated, and -2 will be hostile. So, NPCs in connection, relationships in the High Winds are important. They'll create a sense of connection and story for players, is that we are part of a noble brotherhood, a camaraderie.
Something that would be a good example of this would be, for instance, if you manage to make a good, like, a kind of relationship with a shop NPC, if you go back to that shop, you might get some, some benefits, like a discount or something.
Mm-hmm. I think at one point I was in a campaign where somebody was actually flirting pretty actively with the shopkeep, and I think it was by the end of the campaign he actually went back to that town and married her.
Oh.
So, well, there's one. Okay. It is good to have each adventurer make 2 or 3 connections. Is better for the story if one of those connections are bad, but it doesn't have to be. If you have done your factions at this point, your connection doesn't have to have the same feelings as the faction that they are in. This can lead into things like a redemption for the party through a single point of entry into the faction. Oregon has a connection from Karasis named Abdiar, who is a black market cannon dealer, and they are on friendly terms. When Oregon is in town, he can use their connection to get cheaper or rarer cannons, or maybe Abdiar can tell Oregon about an uptick in black market weapons purchases in the region. Okay, reputation table. Reputation of 1 or 2 are friends, 3 or 4 are known, and 5 or 6 are rivals. Okay.
Yes, basically.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the more that you know somebody, the more likely you're going to be actively competing them for effectively the same contracts.
And the less like 2 characters like someone, that it might be like a Peter Griffin chicken fight right then and there.
So I don't have my usual bottle of water with me. I have a cup of milk because, as I said, I was eating cake and pie right before I decided to come on tonight.
I mean, that is a perfect kind of drink if that you want to have like something like cake.
Or if you're a cat.
Yeah, a cat.
Barkeep, get me a White Russian, but no vodka and no Kahlua. Thank you very much. All right. Concepts. First thing to think about your adventurer is coming up with their concept. If you would rather base these off the job you want, you can select that first, but there's no real order you need to do anything in. High concept. Starting thinking about the high concept, there's a single phrase that your character describes who they are down to the core, or possible what they want to become. Some examples are confident captain, ancient artifact hunter, wild mage, or pirate of the sky. You can expand these if you wish with some sort of describer: unlucky trader, cruel pirate of hoarding, ruthless underworld smuggler. You don't have to stick to this for your high concept. This is something to get you started. The GM will allow you to evolve your high concept after a campaign, so you don't have to be stuck with something if you grow to not like it. Example, Caitlin makes your adventure in Exhibis a mage with an attitude for the high concept. It's simple enough and can be expanded. Ryan starts his idea with a daring swashbuckler but wants to involve a faction, so he expands to be the Sea Dogs problem solver, which is a daring group of swashbucklers. This gives him the original purpose he was going for and a good connection to build story hook off of for good or for ill. Okay. Trouble. In addition to high concept, every adventurer has some sort of trouble as part of their life and story. If your high concept is what or who your adventurer is, your trouble is the answer to a simple question: what complicates your adventurer's existence? A well-constructed trouble is something that your adventurer will struggle with for some time. Is it the captain of a rival ship hunting you down, or are you in debt to people that trained you? Has a member of your family been kidnapped? The more trouble ties you to a world, the better it will be for you and for your GM. So this is the example troubles table. You lost a family heirloom, you're on the run from a bounty hunter, you're in debt to a pirate lord, you ran away from sacred duties, you lost a map to a captain's treasure, or you destroyed a faction's ancient relic.
I think I was about to sneeze, but I think I got stopped by something.
Yep. As one time I accidentally boiled and ate an entire native tribe's macaroni art drawing of their chieftain. You know, we eventually settled it because they just decided to make another one.
Yep.
Okay, so time to pick your adventurer's race and job. So once you have mapped out your adventurer's concept, it's time to pick up your job, which leads to what skill specializations you have. You can find descriptions of each skill in the skill section of the book. Skill descriptions: agility, moving with finesse and control; burglary, theft and opening lock things; cannons, really big guns and explosives; crafts, making and fixing things; creatures, befriending and bonding with creatures; deceit, telling untruths to others; diplomacy, negotiating with others; exploration, finding the unfindable; helmsman, commanding a ship or a large vehicle; lore, using your vast knowledge of study; magic, casting and understanding spells, noticing, seeing and perceiving the world; physique, how strong are you; sailing, ability to perform tasks on a ship; shipwright, fixing.
Basically, can you drive a boat?
Yeah, can you drive
Even
a boat?
if it's in the air.
Or if you're a shipwright, how well can you fix a boat? So
Along with other things, like the job, like an engineer, pretty much fixing the ship.
So let me tell you about my good pal Theseus. Everything said about his philosophy is completely untrue. He really did just buy another boat. Okay, stealth, being sneaky and unseen; swords, using swords in combat; trade, making deals and discussing markets; and will, your mental ability and resistance. Okay, skills. Skills are either specialized or not specialized. Next to each skill is a box to check if it was specialized. The skills mentioned in your job will be the others that are specialized. You can only assign specialized skills at adventure creation to give your starting bonus to. You'll assign your learned skills with the following. If you're 1 great, then you're at a +4. If you're 2 good, you're at a +3. If you're 2 fair, then you're at a +2. And then if you're at 3 average, you're at a +4. By default, grade +4 is the highest an adventurer can start a skill in. So basically what you're doing is you're counting upwards at a level of base 4. That's basically what's going on here. Saying an average is a +1 is an average. Saying it's twice, it's too fair. If saying it's +3 is too good, and then +1 great, and then you would start the process over again. 1 great and 1 average, 1 great and 1 fair, 2 great and 1 good, or 1 great. Two great and 2 great. That's what it is. Okay. We're going to go ahead and we're going to be having our next commercial break soon. So thank you everybody for staying tuned in, as we'll be back after this 2-minute word from Twitch. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please stick around. This is Brandy the RPG Cat.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. So so far I can say that, I am kind of enjoying the way that this is starting to shake out when it comes to, particularly when it comes to dice roll strategy, because you like a lot of the other games that we very recently reviewed, we're not going any higher than D6 when it comes to the total number of dice that we're using, but we're making up for that just entirely by adding modifiers based on specific circumstances.
Basically.
So this allows a little bit more in the role play, is that if you are somebody who's a player character, it would be your job to it would be your responsibility to describe the circumstances that will allow you to have a higher potential dice roll. So it's not merely based on the number of your sheets, but it's also just kind of the circumstance that you're in that actually might potentially give you a +1. Plus you also have X amount of luck points. So you have the opportunity to spend your luck points in order to get that a little bit higher. So is there anything that you've liked about this concept so far?
I like that it's basically nobody really seems to know what the world is like, below the clouds. But as far as they know, it's incredibly dangerous to go there.
Well, yeah, is almost immediately would think about a campaign where people would go down into the surface world, and it could be just literally anything in that situation.
Yeah, plus the whole mystery of what even happened.
So I would basically model any of my concepts around that, simply because it just kind of gives you, more of an idea of, just being behind in the middle of a great dangerous world where you can't really expect what is potentially going to happen. So I really went Bob Newhart with that explanation. Anyways, we're back. Let's see. Talents. Talents are also part of your adventures, and they describe special actions or circumstances that occur for them. You can gain talents in a few ways: from your race, the skills you choose, or maybe part of some of the special weapons or utilities you have equipped. Each talent may be wildly different from one another. It may be some form of ability your adventurer can perform, a passive that gives you better resistance in specific circumstance, or even change how rules or the construction of your adventure takes place. Quick adventurers, if you want to skip making a detailed adventure and just want to play, you can leave most of the sheet blank and fill in as you play. Of course, you should check with the GM before doing a quick adventure to make sure it fits in the game that you'll have. At minimum, you need the following fill out to start: a high concept, a best skill, and a name. When it comes to your high concept, you can start off vague and redefine the idea later. Guy with sword is an okay high concept for this method, and later you might discover something about your adventure that puts a spin on it. When that happens, rewrite the concept to reflect that spin. You should know your best skill to start. That gives us for this details about your adventurer. If you have any other thoughts on skills, either skills you're good at or skills you're bad at, write those down. Then make a note on your sheet about those skills you're intentionally saying you don't have. And of course, you need a name. The first name you'll need for a moment is a nickname. There's also the trick of giving yourself a name, only to later reveal that you've been hiding, are undercover, or have amnesia, and write down what your real name is. Okay, so first description of in-game races and classes. Okay, first we have the Gorn. Strong, resilient, and towering over others. The Gorn are intimidating to look at, even if not every single one of them wants to tear you apart. It's very often that other races mistake Gorn's piercing stares and faces covered in tentacles as an opening sign of aggression. While a Gorn can be aggressive and stern, often so, not all of them are. Many are raised to be into military-type positions from a young age, as the order and control are rooted deep in Gorn culture. A deep grunting voice usually comes with Gorns, and they range from 6 to 8 feet tall. Their skin is wet to the touch and sometimes a bit slimy, and ranging in color from a blue to a green shift. Tentacles adorn their face like the beard of a human, and usually some tentacles making up some form of hairdo that slicks back from the forehead. Preferring colder climates as the warmer weather and sun doesn't treat their skin well, as they can dry out quite quickly.
So basically, to simplify, Octodad.
I was about to say Davy Jones as a population.
Yeah, basically. Pretty much both of those, if they were an entire range of species.
Mm-hmm. So in a cold mountain or a deep cave, you often find Gorns lying in colder climates, mountains, or caves, and the structures they build are usually made from metal panels. Whether it's hastily built shacks or military base installations, the cool touch of metal is much preferred by the silky skin people. Live up to 150 years old. They have regeneration. You have a fascinating Gorn ability to regrow wounds and limbs. At the start of each round, you recover 1 physical stress. No hands, no problem. After years of practice, you can manipulate objects like a knife or a pistol with your tentacles. You can use a small action to operate your device.
And also, your species age can be up to 150 years.
Mm-hmm. So, you are some old tuna.
Yeah. Basically, with this, you could even possibly play as Squidward.
Uh-huh. Humans, keep the noise down, won't you? I'm busy being boring.
Will you shut up? I've got a concert tomorrow.
Alright. So, humans, the most diverse people, able to adapt on most elements and having the longest history in the world. Humans average 70 years in age and average between 5 to 6 feet in height, and an array of body types, hair ranging from many colors and styles from growth to culture. As their history is long, humans are found in most settlements and have a wide range of customs among their people. They take great pride in providing lineages that last generations through statues and large decorations commemorating their families and cultures. As humans are so varied, some groups form prejudices against other races or even other humans. A lot can happen over generations. From living on high mountains to on the more living on board skyships, humans are everywhere, and it's almost hard not to find them. Most of the time they will try and integrate into the cultures of other races as well, looking to expand their cultural experience. Human talents, born traveler. You live in the sky. All types of movement can be made using acrobatics aboard ships, and once per encounter you can make an automatic save to grapple back to a ship if any mishaps occur. A hand in every port, no matter where you are or what your allegiance is. You're so common that everybody is willing to trade with you, which is a +1 trade at ports. So, the ability to suddenly grip at the end of your ship if it capsizes, keeping yourself on, is not a bug, it's a feature. If you're playing the human...
Totally not a bug, it's not a bug, it's a feature.
The mechanoids, created a long time ago and powered by moon crystal cores and some engineering prowess, the mechanoids have developed their own society built to help each other, keep the secrets of mechanoids to themselves. The soul of a mechanoid is tied to its moon crystal core. If it gets too damaged, then they may cease to exist. Unlike other machinations, you can't just replace the core of a mechanoid, as it would kill them. Mechanoids vary in looks, being put together by various parts of machines from different engineers and places of the world. Not just anyone can create a mechanoid. It is well kept secret amongst mechanoid culture that no mechanoid would divulge, as they know it could be the end of their society altogether. It could be the end of their society altogether. Technology everywhere. Mechanoids live everywhere. They're good at working menial tasks that don't tire so easily. So they are welcome most places. There are some groups that despise and forbid the unnatural nature of the mechanoids and will not accept them. They can conceivably live forever.
Yep, they literally cannot die of old age.
Mm-hmm. So they have the ability to equip their fill as long as it doesn't disturb their inner core. They can equip body attachments freely, unlike all those other fleshy races.
This means that if you're a mechanoid here, you can like screw out an arm and replace it for like some kind of tool.
Mm-hmm. So quadrupeds, if you have 4 legs, you can run fast. Any type of move action gives you double the movement. I have centaur questions. Centaur-related questions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, would that even still, like, count? It's like, you know, that kind of quadruped. Like, we have seen, like, those kinds of incredibly terrifying robotic dog things are quadrupeds, and, would it be more like that, or, like, I don't know, like, how a centaur would, if, like, you know, the legs are, like, situated like a horse or something?
I don't want to dwell too much on scary-looking canine quadrupeds.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, once again, that is something that you really need to elaborate with your DM. Okay, so the Snorn, the proud Snorn, are every bit as calculating as you have heard them to be. Most would rather spend their days filling courtrooms and trade houses than dirty their hands with manual labor. Their short stature and weightier figure stems from the Snorm always getting together to work for them. Eve generations prior to they trained animals and creatures to do as much work for them as possible. With the rise of technology, many Snorn traded training animals for paying others at a very disadvantaged deal to continue their tradition of self-importance. The Snorn are natural traders and mercantile powerhouses. Just their reputation alone can usually get them into a special deal, not available to anyone just out of expectations from non-Snorn folk. With high-pitched nasally voices, dull gray skin that is stretchy yet still keeps its form, the Snorn can use many technological enhancements either by necessity or vanity to strengthen features they deem desirable. Many replace limbs to function better, as their natural limbs are often prone to atrophy, or install permanent rebreathers to help lung and breathing functions outside of their stable home environments. I'm trying to make it. I'm debating amongst myself here as whether or not these are cyborg gnomes or cyborg dwarves.
So they're mechanoids, but smaller.
Well, I mean, they are. Is simply the fact is that they are naturally very small, so it's more than likely just during the run of their lives they're either going to lose a limb. Through severing or also by atrophy. So they just replace that with a robotic one.
I would be surprised if one of them actually, died by accidentally getting stepped on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like Plankton style.
Yeah. Well, this stinks. Okay, at the heart of trade, most Snorn you'll find in perfectly pristine houses deep in the city, often building their home into their business, such as a bathhouse or a trade hall. They do as much as possible to not have to travel far, at least not by themselves. Snorn have one less physical resistance, and they also have one extra mental resistance. They live up to 250 years old. Loyal servants can train up to 2 creature companions instead of 1. And a gadget of every occasion, having become accustomed to using tools to aid in most things in life, you can keep an extra gadget equipped.
Alright, but then again, like, what sorts of, like, things would you be able to tame up there? Like, birds?
In what? Did they say that they live in wintry areas? I don't think they actually did specify, what area they're from, but it's just really a sense. However, I am pretty well convinced that they are supposed to be cyborg gnomes at this point, because they are supposed to be the builders, or supposed to be the machine workers.
So it would be mechanoids that get gnomed.
Yeah. Well, actually, gnomes that get mechanized.
So mecha gnomes.
Yeah, mecha gnomes, or gnome menekas.
Yes, not a mecha gnoblin, not a mecha gnolf. It's a mecha gnome.
Okay, this is turning into that secret language that they have in Zoom at this point.
Oh yeah, we're speaking the language of the gods. We've already stopped.
Uh-huh. Mecha Gnoma, that's all, folks. Okay. Zoldori, the proud but small Zoldori, whether it's the arcane powers of moons or endless engineering of skyships, Zoldori like to devote their lives to a cause. The small people are covered in fur, colored from one of those moons in a paler fashion. The lineage of a Zoldorian directly affects their fur color. Sometimes clans even form around this, where the ancestors of the Zoldori lived as a direct influence of their fur coloring and sometimes magical abilities. You will see deep red, pale yellow, or shimmering purple Zoldorians around the world. And for the most part, this doesn't affect their personality. They are approximately 3 feet tall on average and have big droopy ears and marbly black eyes. Many Zoldori decorate their ears to stand out amongst others and are often used as a way to show off wealth. There is even a superstition among the Zoldorian that bigger ears make you more intelligent.
Basically, they're bunny people.
Well, there are lots of different kinds of people. They're kind of Yeti Ewok people with long ears.
You can't tell me that doesn't still count as, like, banani.
Mm-hmm. So Zoldorians, for the most part, live harmoniously in the big cities like Nakir, but often there will be purists who befriend others and make business affiliations based on the color of one's fur. The most common being red fur. This often causes the yellow and purple furred Zoldorians to be cast out in some societies around the world. So this is creatively induced racism. They live up to age 200. Their talents, they're magically inclined. Magic runs you in lineage. Add 1 spell reserve to your total. So this is the potential magic user race. And then hard to hit due to your small nature. If someone is shooting at you, it is just that bit harder to hit you, and you can add +1 dice to your opposed roll.
Yes, also these bananis can be up to, like, 200 years old.
Oh, actually, we do have a photo here, so yeah, I'm okay. I acquiesce to your belief that they are.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Uh-huh.
Banani people.
Okay, I stand thoroughly corrected.
Yeah, exactly. They are banani people, and I will not hear otherwise. The picture speaks for itself.
Yep. Okay, so engineers tinkering with engines, making that flint-top pistol. Okay, this is the jobs listing, by the way. That's what I should have mentioned.
Yep, now that we're done with the races, we'll go on to the jobs.
So engineers, physical defense skills are their physique. Physical defense skills are their will. Their skills are cannons, crafts, guns, helmsman, lord, physique, sailing, shipwright, trade, and will. Okay, the Moon Mage. Moon Mages worship one of the 3 moons that surround Astra, each giving different magical properties. Their physical defense skill is physique. Their physical defense skill is in magic. Skills, magic exploration, creatures, lore, crafts, diplomacy, physique, sword, sailing, and will. Talents, innate magic. Moon mages can cast magic from the moon they are aligned to without using a moon focus. With this talent, pick which one of the moons that you align with. Okay, so smugglers, transporting things they shouldn't, avoiding the authorities, and spending time at locations they aren't really known to most. This is the life of a smuggler. The physical defense skill is agility, physical defense skill is will. Skills, agility, burglary, deceit, guns, notice, physique, sailing, stealth, word, swords, and wills. Blah, 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 blah. I'm taking... Okay.
We're taking some psychic damage by trying to pronounce all and comprehend all that word vomit soup.
I'll take S words for 500.
Correct.
As I'm watching you, Trebek.
Alex Trebek. Oh yeah, you know he's probably gonna come for us after this.
I see the assassins have failed. All right. Soldier, a life of honor, duty, and respect. This is what a soldier lives for. They will usually be found in a big navy, maybe washing the deck, maybe the captain of fleet. The only place to go to is up. Physical defense skill and physique, physical defense skill and will. Skills, cannons, diplomacy, guns, helmsman, lord. Notice physique, sailing, swords, and will. Okay. The swashbuckler. Swinging from sail to sailor, the swashbuckler feels more at home on the open sky than they do with the soil beneath their feet. Disliking most forms of organized civilian life, they become quite skilled at taking matters into their own hands. Physical defense skill and agility, physical defense skill and will. Skills, agility, deceit, exploration, guns, helmsman, physique, sailing, stealth, swords, and will. I think everybody has a will enhancement stat so far. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, maybe not.
Well, not like either of us would probably know. Like, I'm pretty much confused all the time.
Once again, prototype book. Maybe that'll change. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a prototype book. We don't know what will happen in the future, you know.
Okay, trader. Whether it's haggling one small item or negotiating a discount on the 40 crates of pistols for the Navy, a trader enjoys haggling every last piece of gold. Physical defense skill, physique, physical defense skill, diplomacy, skills, creatures, crafts, diplomacy, exploration, helmsman, lore, notice physique, trade, and will. Alright. So, skills. Every adventurer has a set of skills they can use. The following pages have the descriptions of skills and the stunts you can learn as part of them. Listed in each skill will be a set of example actions in a table as well. Skills aren't limited to these tables. It's just that there's an example and you're free to suggest actions along play in which these skills are needed. Okay.
You know, it's kind of like how you would do it.
Okay, so talent. Each skill has talents which are like special actions or abilities you can perform because of your experience in that skill. Talents are based on your skills. Once you reach +3 in a skill, you will unlock your first talent in this skill. This signifies your years of training at this skill and making you better at this skill. This happens literally per skill, so if you're +5 in acrobatics, you cannot take an acrobatics talent than a physique talent. Both of your talents must be acrobatics talents. So, skill level, +3 gives you 1 talent, +5 gives you 2 talents, +7 gives you 3 talents, and +8 gives you 4 talents. Okay, so the agility skill is responsible for your character's all over agility when moving around and doing things requiring a bit of finesse and stability. Talents like aerial border, the types of enemies all look at you as you swirl through the air onto the deck. The luchadors of the sky sailing set. Just try not to land on the tarmac, because the tarmac is very far down.
Yeah, the most you're gonna look like when you're found is probably like a splat of dreaded peanut butter or in a jelly sandwich.
It's been a while since I've had jelly in the house. I'd like some marmalade, as that I also eat a lot of English muffins. Anyway, +2, add to your action roll when swinging or launching from one ship to another. Soft landings, roll out of your fall. If you have trained diligently to make the long leap off of a building to keep running, nothing is stopping you. +1 to fate rolls to land safely or with reduced consequences. Agility actions, balance, climbing, dodging an object or an attack, leaping from objects, rope movement, and swinging. Burglary. Characters with burglary can open things that they aren't meant to, get into places that aren't open, and generally do things others frown upon. Talents, master replica. When you take something, others notice quite fast when something is missing. Using materials you have on hand, you can recreate almost anything and pass it off as a real thing from a distance. Create a replica of something you steal, convince anyone who doesn't interact with the item. So, you know. Imagine the Maltese Falcon, but as soon as you took the Maltese Falcon, you replaced it with an empty Woody Woodpecker shampoo bottle.
I think you just made a brand new sentence.
Yep. Well, I mean,
That guy has never ever been said until now. Congratulations.
Well, that's the thing is that these days they don't make shampoo balls in the shape of cartoon characters, and that's an awful shame. All right, so soft hands, always handling locks and mechanical contraptions with a delicate touch. When you fail, it isn't because too much force is applied with these hands. Don't create noise or break things on fail checks to open doors and contraptions. Burglary actions, pick a lock, pick a pocket, sabotage, set traps, and smash and grab. Cannons. The cannon skill represents your character's general skill of aiming, arming, and maintaining the cannons on your ship. Talents, architectural aim. Noticing the structural supports holding up the barricades on top of the curtain wall, you are able to take quick aim at the most critical point to cause severe damage. +2 to attack actions with cannons when targeting a building or defensive structure. Chain shot, shooting 2 large iron balls connected by chains, causing critical damage to sails or intricate engine parts to slow the enemy ship to a halt. This was actually something that happened on real pirate ships back in the day, is that you take a couple of cannonballs, you hitch them together with a couple of pieces of long chain, and you fire that. It goes like a bolo into the enemy's ship, can cause a pretty significant amount of damage. So, chain shot, when you succeed, create an advantage action on another ship. Their speed is reduced to 0 until they can repair. Cannon actions, aim a torpedo, fire a cannon, harpoon a large creature, install ship weaponry, and reload. So, crafts the skill of working to make items such as weapons, armor, trinkets, and gadgets. Talents, custom made. You can alter one weapon or item so that its owner can use it flawlessly. A weapon or an item has 1 more dice when used by the person it was custom made for. If the crafter fails a craft check, then the item is destroyed. Or Gadget Master. Learn how to maintain and handle multiple gadgets at once. Crafts actions, assemble a trap. Create a makeshift contraption. Disassemble mechanisms or traps. Inspect an item or repair an item. Okay, so creatures. Characters with the creature skill. Creature is apparently a job in this realm. That's what's going on here. Characters with creature skills will be able to work with creatures and animals to help guide or tame them. Taming a creature requires enough skill points in creatures equal to or greater than the creature's tame level. Talents, animalistic. You fit in well with creatures of the wilderness. They count you as one of them. Wild creatures will try not to harm you on sight. Command, you make a simple command of a creature that is not tamed by you. Make a luck roll. On a success, the creature. Follow one simple command. On a fail, the creature becomes hostile towards you. Okay, so deceit. Some people can't keep their composure while making up a story on the spot, but an adventurer with deceit is able to tell a story so convincing others may think it was them who even experienced. Talents, change their outfits, quickly change your disguise like that of a performer between sets. Changing outfits is a free action. Well, that's not necessarily true. It probably still takes 1 action.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Back for insignia. Once you have seen someone's insignia, you are easily able to replicate it. So +2 to forging documents with a certain person's insignia. Deceit actions, disguise, distraction, forge documents, imitate a person, or lie. Diplomacy will allow your character to navigate situations using conversation instead of conflicts. Talents, convincing arguments. Make a dice roll to see if you successfully convince another person of your argument. Or noble touch, +1 to actions and conversations around nobles. Diplomacy actions, lower someone's guard, change their beliefs, change their subject, comfort someone, or persuade someone. Exploration. The exploration skill determines your character's ability to find the unfindable. Talents, trap sense. This explorer can see things before they happen. If they're exploring the unexplored, their keen senses kick in at just the right moment. +1 to avoiding traps in dungeons. Natural map reader. You pick up a map and have a natural sense to what you're seeing. Regardless of the outcome of reading a map, you will know at least which direction to go. So, So, guns represents range combat during weapons. Different weapons will affect the use of the skill differently. A warning shot. You may not be a great conversationalist, but you know how to use your firearm. You talk with your pistol to get across a point if you need to. Say, what does your talking gun sound like?
Probably sounds like a stereotypical American.
Say, shoot up directly up in the air and say, everybody. All right, everybody listen up. Because I do not like to repeat myself.
All that amounts of words for like each bullet? Or like one bullet, or do you have to keep firing?
No, you just have to fire one. And that's precisely what they're describing with warning shot.
Oh.
Use guns instead of a diplomacy roll to convince or intimidate someone. You know, somebody is making you angry, so you just raise your gun and you shoot off the tip of their long handlebar mustache.
It's one of the tips.
So, critical aim. Swinging your firearm to your opponent, you shoot aiming for a critical part of the body to hopefully make sure they don't get back up. -2 on your guns roll, +2 extra damage on a success. That is the definition of critical aim. As in, you're probably not aiming, but you are definitely hitting something vital. Okay, helmsman, your character's ability to navigate with your ship. It helps situations in and out of combat in the open skies. Anchor turns, you have to go the other way, and you need to go the other way now. You turn the wheel hard and stall the engine for just a moment as all momentum pivots. Tokyo Drift. Turn ship 180 degrees. Taking a stress on the ship. Keep current speed. Say, what was that again?
I said deja vu.
Deja vu.
You know, I've just been in this place before, higher than the street.
You know, as you're not watching the intro to Yogi's Gang when Yogi spins the helm on his airship and he actually goes vertically in 360 degrees. So, low fly zones, -2 on attacks against your ships, -2 on your attacks against others. Helmsman actions, command the crew, drop the anchor, maneuver for boarding, spot dangers, and steer the ship. Okay, so, lore allows your adventurers to recall information through study they have done or through word of mouth through their many conversations. Talents, use lore instead of diplomacy to convince someone of something related to history of the world. There once was an ugly barnacle. It was so ugly that everybody died.
Everyone died. The end.
The end.
That didn't help at all!
Okay, I've heard of it. Is that +2 on lore rolls about obscure ancient knowledge. I actually know this one.
So a bunch of like whole stuff?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's basically what your Arcana roll would be in another game, except it has directly to do with lore. So magic. The magic skill is your character's ability to manipulate magics given by moons and moon crystals. Talent, silent casting. Instead of muttering an incantation, you channel magic through extra hand movement and gestures. So then there's also a section here for wild spells, but that hasn't been written yet. So magic actions, you can operate a magical device, you can detect magic, you can identify a spell, you can dispel a ward, or you can bond to an artifact. So notice skill, your adventurer's ability is to spot things out of the ordinary, or pay close attention to what is happening in the designated area. Talents, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. You're walking around You're walking around the corner of a large manor in Hagem City when you see the hinges of the door in front of you spring-loaded with something that they shouldn't be. +2 to notice rolls to find traps on ships and in buildings. Or out of place, you have visited this place a few times, and as you take a quick sweep, you can start picking up things that are not where they should. +2 on notice rolls in areas that are familiar to you. Notice actions, investigate, keep watch, listen out, spot something unusual, or track a target. Okay, so So, physique. This measures your adventurer's raw strength, their ability to withstand strenuous tasks and then use their brawn instead of brains. This has a direct influence on your adventurer's physical resistance. Talents, brawling, +1 to physique rolls when doing fist-to-face combat. I mean, not necessarily fist or any other part of the body, just specifically fist-to-face. Okay, well, not really, but that would be pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it would be like really funny.
Okay, physique actions. Apply force, contest of strength, grapple someone, lift, or punch something. Sailing. Or
punch.
Or punch something.
You just
Look.
you punch something.
I'm going to punch the lock to this ancient temple.
And imagine that was like the answer, like you don't even break it. You just like that was the answer. That was what you were supposed to do.
I was gonna say open sesame in Elvish, but you do you, pal. Okay. Well, sailing. Last chance sailing. On the defeat in a ship combat, you may roll sailing to get the ship back to a dock. Our ram, -2 damage on a ram. If you deal 4 damage, you can only take 2 points of that damage. So, in a situation where your ship is colliding against another ship, and you would both take 4, you would only take 2.
Alright, makes sense.
Sailing actions, dropping anchor, maintaining the engines, raising and lower the sails, small repairs, using a ship mechanism. Being one of the single most identifiable American cartoon characters. Are you a sailor? Do I look like a cowboy?
Oh, right, you're hired.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, like Popeye made his like very first like appearance, like literally just 1 year after sliced bread was invented.
Yeah, wow. So we have sliced bread 1 year, and then we have Popeye the following year.
That's right.
Suddenly people were eating too much bread and reading too many comic books, so they had to introduce the spinach thing. All right, so shipwright, the skill of working with your ships, requires big workshops and lots of resources. Talents, jerry rigging, out in the sky, need to make some alterations. Once per voyage, you can change your ship's equipment. Or countermeasures, you grab the wheel and move the ship so it takes the least amount of damage possible. Once per encounter, cut the damage taken from a single attack in half. It's a little bit more powerful than Helmsman.
Okay, makes some sense.
Stealth measures how well a character can do do actions without being noticed by others. Talents, part of the crowd, +2 to create an advantage when trying to do something in a crowd or a populated area. Or distraction can be used once per scene, allows you to escape a nearby zone without taking any damage or your opponent's noticing. Say, creating a distraction. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty. Creating a distraction. Hey, over here. Look over here right now.
Why? I don't know where that comes from. Like, yikes! I need a distraction. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kanye Twit.
Mr. Kanye Twitty. She give my money when I'm in need. Alright, swords. Sword skills represents close range combat with non-projectile weapons. Sword lunges allows you to do a sword attack into another zone. Killing blows, you strike hard and you strike swiftly. After analyzing your opponents once per scene, you can spend the luck point to increase the severity of the consequence. Sword actions, attack something, pry something open, cut something, throw something, maintain and repair it.
That's basically the gist.
Trade, the skill of bartering in stores and fighting details where there were none before. Talents, money talks, spend a wealth to use trade instead of diplomacy. I saw cheaper somewhere else, roll trade skill, will, +1. Trade actions, appraise an item, estimate a treasure value, find trade goods, haggle, or navigate trade routes. And then finally, you will. This is one of the more standard skills in the whole game, according to the jobs list. Will is your ability to withstand mental activities and guide your adventure using their mind. This has a direct influence on your adventure's mental resistance. Will actions break manipulation, maintain control, push your own limits, resist mental anguish, or suppress emotions.
All right.
Okay, so play in general. Play style.
Place.
What the sequence of play is. Okay, so actions and outcomes. You roll a dice when there's some kind of interesting opposition keeping you from achieving your goals. If there is no interesting opposition, you must accomplish whatever you say you're trying to do. As said previously, characters in a high-whiz games solve their problems proactively. Players during the game, you're going to do a lot. You might break into the bad guy's fortress, sail your ship through floating rockfield debris, rally a group of people into a protest, or raid a vault for all the treasure you've been searching for. Whenever you take action, there's a good chance something or someone is going to be in your way. It won't be an interesting story if the bad guy just rolled over and handed you victory on a plate. Clearly he's got some crazy security measures to keep you out of his place. Or the mines are unstable and already blowing up around you. Or the crew of another ship are stopping you from boarding. Or the treasure room is booby-trapped to sway you from taking all of its valuables. That's when it's time to take out the dice, describe the action you're trying to do, and the GM tells you what skill is appropriate. Roll your skill level plus your bonus amount of d6s, and then use the table below to calculate your total. Well, I think the table still remains to be written. Opposition, as said in the basics, whenever you roll a dice, you're comparing your roll to your opposition. Opposition is either active, meaning it's another person rolling dice against you, or passive, meaning that it's just the environments of the environment or the situation you're in. Or it's actually the GM rolling dice. We're familiar with that. Example.
Yeah, we all know that.
Yeah. So, example, Sean decides to roll active opposition against Alex on behalf of some crew on a deck of a trade ship. He decides the most appropriate opposing skill is diplomacy. They're trying to resist the temptation of bribery, after all. The crew are nameless NPCs with no reason to be particularly strong of will, so that gives him a mediocre 0. He rolls and gets plus 0, 0, plus 0, plus, for an incredibly lucky result of a plus 3. That gives him a good plus 3 result, beating Alex's roll by 1.
All right.
Okay, so outcomes, when you roll a die, either you're gonna fail, tie, succeed, or succeed with style. Every roll you make in a high wins game results in one of 4 outcomes, generally speaking. This specifics may change a little depending on what kind of action you're taking, but all the game actions will fit this general pattern. Succeed, if you meet or exceed the challenge rating, you succeed. That means you get what you want at no cost. Fail, if you roll lower than your opposition, you fail. That means one of several things. You don't get what you want. You get what you want at a serious cost, or you suffer some negative mechanical consequence. Sometimes it means more than one of those. It's the GM's job to determine an appropriate cost. Or succeed with style. If you roll higher than the challenge rating of your opponent's opposition by 3 or more, you have critically succeeded. That means you get what you want, but you also get added benefits on top of that. If this roll is against you as a player, you also get a luck point. Yeah. So for the GM, when you're thinking about costs, think about both the story and play and the game mechanics to help you figure out what would be the most appropriate. A serious cost would make the current situation worse somehow, either by creating a new problem or exacerbating an existing one. Bringing in another source of opposition or the next one, or ask the player to take a consequence at their lowest free level, or give somebody who opposes a PC an advantage with a free invocation. A minor cost should add a story detail that's problematic or bad for the player character, but doesn't necessarily endanger progress. You could also ask the PC to take stress or give somebody who opposes the PCs a boost. It's okay if the minor cost is merely a narrative detail, showing how the PC just barely scratched by. See more advice about dealing with costs in running the game. Okay, so let me see. Resistance and consequences. Resistance tracks. Every character has 2 main tracks. The physical resistance is how much harm you take from things like swords, explosions, guns, falling. The mental track Measures magic, social, general stress. Characters get +2 plus their related skill for each track, plus any other bonus from items, armors, and traits. Physical uses the physique skill, mental uses the will skills. Consequences, every adventure also has 3 consequence slots, 1 mild, 1 moderate, and the last one is severe. Unlike resistance, these aren't classified as either physical or mental. Any of them can apply to any type of harm. As mentioned above, consequences are the injuries and traumas you can't shake off after the dust settles. So this is the reason for the very long list of potential consequences, and also the levels 1 through 3 of potential consequences on the character sheet.
Yeah, it's pretty much really long.
All right, so okay, we're getting really close to another break. Let me see. Challenges, conflict. I'm just gonna pick out probably the next major section for us to read, and that's probably going to be the last section that we'll read out of this book. Let me see. I think we'll do this. So we're going to talk about defining an arc, talking about, you know, just basically what the progression of a storyline looks like in this game. So
And essentially what a character arc would be.
I mean, knowing what your character arc is, etc. Or having the GM determine what it is, etc. All right, so yeah, we're going to go ahead. We're going to run that 2-minute ad. We'll be right back. Thank you, everybody, for staying tuned in. This has been our preview of High Winds, the Kickstarter tabletop RPG. Yeah, we'll be right back. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been Rainy the RPG Cat.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
Whoop. All right. So, if you were actually to play this game, is there anything that you feel like you would be looking forward to?
Probably like just all the exploring and like discovering new things.
I mean, so,
Like it's not a lot to do with the mystery about like what happened. To make like whatever is going on below the clouds such a dangerous place.
You know, this has been probably the single longest book that we have read that describes mechanics, whereas in a lot of the other books we're mostly just kind of talking about lore and setting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you know,
like, there's like pretty much like a whole bunch of lore here that's waiting.
I mean, even when we write our own books, is that, you know, we're trying to find, you know, a bit of a balance between the two, is that we're trying to talk about the lore and then talk about why it's important to the mechanics, and then just alternating between those two.
Yep.
You know, this is a partially written book, so I have no doubt that, you know, several pages are going to be written after this that are going to, you know, just describe everything perfectly.
Alright, and I'm pretty much gonna go, like, like, pretty much.
All right.
We'll see you next time, Brainy.
Yeah, okay, have a
Yeah,
good
we
night.
can pretty much finish up the document later.
And so I'm just going to finish up this article, and then I'm going to sign off. Or maybe I'll do a Let's Play. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Alright, anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go. See you later.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. Okay, so, we're back. Well, actually, I'm back because, my co-host decided to sign on. But, okay, so, this has been our review of Scalebound Games, High Winds. We're going to go ahead and we're going to read this last article, and then we're just going to leave things up to the Kickstarter from this point. So, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. This is about fighting an arc. When you sit down to play the High Winds, you might just play a single session. That's a viable way to play the game, but let's assume that you want to go a bit longer. What you need then is an arc. An arc is a complete storyline with its own themes, situations, antagonists, innocent bystanders, and endgame, sometimes linking places and fashions from Astra, told in the span of a few scenarios. You don't need to have everything planned out. In fact, you probably shouldn't, given no meticulously planned story ever survives contact with the players. But you need to have an idea of where things begin and end, and what might happen in the middle. To make a fictional analogy, an arc is a lot like a single book. It tells its own stories and then it ends when it's done. You provide some form of closure and move on. Sometimes you move on to another story, and sometimes your book is just the first in a series of books. That's when you have a campaign. Defining campaign when you have multiple arcs that are connected and told in sequence and that have an overarching story or theme that runs through all of them. You have a campaign. Campaigns are long, taking months or even years to complete. Of course, that doesn't need to be as scary as it might sound. Yes, a campaign is long and large and complex. You don't, however, need to come up with the whole thing at once. As with an arc, you may have an idea where it begins and ends, but you really only need to plan an arc at a time. Adventurers do not remain the same throughout these campaigns. As the story plays out, they gain experience and slowly become better, more skilled and able to deal with challenges in increasingly better ways. The challenges they overcome will slowly change who they are and how they are able to interact in the world. The world also changes throughout play as well. Don't expect places or factions or people to stay each time that you visit them. Experience points table. You will have space on your adventure sheet to mark your experience. Unless the GM states otherwise, you'll get 5 experience each session. You will get upgrade skills, add new stunts, learn magic after each session with the experience you've gained. Follow the table to work out what you need to spend the gains and adjustments. So every 5 points, it allows you to upgrade 1 learned skill. And so on average, you get 5 points, and then after you get 5 points, you would be able to upgrade 1 skill. If you were to upgrade an unlearned skill, you would need 10 points, which means you might want to save up points between 2 sessions so that you would have 10 points to add the additional skill. So wealth, traveling, let's see, ship combat. This is an important part of this. Ships aren't just for transport. They can be used to show dominance in the sky or protect a cargo vessel from imminent demise. Whatever the reason there is, it's likely going to be times you need to fire those cannons you had placed on a ship. Ship combat happens on a hex grid, and each player takes turns to control an aspect of the ship. Speed. Ships maintain a certain momentum when moving through skies. The crew on the ship must do actions to change the speed and or direction of the ship. Any inaction will leave the ship traveling its current direction and speed until someone on the ship changes it. Defeat. When one ship defeats another, what happens? Not every ship will fall beneath the clouds. Sometimes the defeated ship will be taken back to pot and sold for parts by the visitor, or the crew may take the lifeboats back to safety. Anything is possible, and defeat doesn't always mean the end. Ship stats. All ship have different ratings for the follow stats and are usually rated from 1 to 5. Hull. The strength of the ship represents the total damage that can be taken from opponent weapons and base defense from certain attacks. A ship's physical resistance is 2 plus the hull. Speed represents the movement capabilities of the ship, how far it can move during actions. Maneuverability, ability to turn and make difficult in combat directional abilities. Size represents the size of the ship. Each rank in this allows more equipment to be fitted to the ship. Substats, your current speed, your maximum turn, your maneuver, the current speed, the dodge, the maneuver to size, and the ability to dodge incoming fire. On top of this, ships can have equipment on them such as cannons, torpedoes, grappling hooks. Equipment may have extra stats such as range, minimum or max damage, ammo, and more. There's a section later on that which will give examples of some equipment that can be added to your ship. So the reason that they're using a hex map, and they have one on display right here, is that when you turn a ship, you need to have the ability to see how far it is capable of turning within one turn. And so that if it was just like from one turn to another, it would go from the top of the hex to the upper side of the hex, or it would go to the lower side of the hex. And so then the game actually just becomes, using movement points not just to move forward and backwards, but also to rotate, to align yourself with other ships. And all of these were going to require you to use movement points. All right. Turn. The ship may turn to half of its maximum turn rounded up, so a speed of 3 can turn up to 2 directions in one action. Or repair. Someone may attempt to repair the ship using a fate roll up to its maximum hull value. Fire. If your ship has equipment that is capable of firing, then you would use your dice roll to determine the outcome here, given the equipment stats. Unless otherwise stated, most ship weapons will use the cannon stat against the opposing enemy's dodge stat. Okay, so combat order and ship combat turns are taken by ships and the crew and the ships and not by individual players. So if you have 4 players, they will all get an action in the ship's turn. Then the same for many enemy ships. Many actions while on a ship may be taken during the turn but will not resolve until the end of the turn, such as a movement and torpedoes, which are performed during the turn, but the effects do not happen until all ships or persons on the ships and around have finished taking their turn. Resolving order. This is the order actions we'll have during a turn in ship combat. Individual actions like firing cannons, lighting repairs, turning happen as you perform them. The following actions get resolved once the turn is over and every ship resolves before moving on to the next line. So first you have the ship movement, which is based on current speed, then the torpedoes, recording the hit and the damage, and then the use of any ship-based magic. That's the hierarchy of turns. So the example, the Cork Sparrow comes up against another pirate ship who does not want to parley. That means it's time for battle stations. Cian, Organ, and Bliss start getting ready during the Cork Sparrow's turn. Cian start turning the ship to get out of a head-on collision with another ship. Organ fires the first cannon shot, which is a hit. The enemy takes some minor damage. Abyss lowers the solar sails and sets the current speed to 2. The enemy ship turns to move with the Cork Sparrow and starts firing their own cannons. One cannonball flies over the deck, Organ stretching its neck to see it fly by, and one cannonball hits the side of the ship. After both ships have finished their actions, it is time to resolve the movement. Both ships have turns and are heading in the same direction, and the pirate ship moves 3 spaces on the hex grid, and the Cork Sparrow moves 2 spaces. On the next turn, Abyss immediately heads down to start patching up the hole that was left by the cannonball. Organ fires another cannon and manages to hit it with style, causing the enemy engine to conk out. This gives time for the Cian to fire a torpedo just in the movement of the enemy ship, halting their movement even more so while the crew makes an escape. So, well, that in itself is a description of how generally thrilling this gameplay is when you're involved in ships combat. So this all explains the vertical movement of ships, but then we're going to have to look at flying height. Flying height, this is an optional rule for those who like to have a bit crunchier air combat. Ships will sail at the sky at 4 different levels, 1 being the lowest and 4 being the highest. When using flying height rules, these things will change. Uh-oh. I knew a sneeze was coming. Okay, so new action, ascend or descend, and make a sailing check to raise or lower the ship by 1 height level. Damage, if the ship is the same height or higher than you, your ship must maneuver to dodge. If your ship is being attacked from underneath, you can use hull to dodge. Equipment, well, that isn't written in yet. Okay, so I think at this point this would actually be a good time to bring an end to our preview. But from what I can see from this game is that it does sound like a really good game, and it is very it's a game that has a lot of considerations that are very compatible with the kind of theme that they're using. And, since this is a prototype book, we have yet to see whether or not there's going to be more when it comes to actual lore, specific written out scenarios, those sorts of things. But as far as gameplay is concerned, I think that this game is pretty well written and very well sound. This is definitely something that I would want to set up the hex board on so that I could give it a legitimate try, particularly when it comes to the ship's combat. When it comes to, just kind of general dice rolls, the standard types of rules of role-playing, I find the D6 system to be interesting because what you're effectively doing with the D6 system in this game is that you're using it in place of any potential higher rolls that you would have in any other system. Just to use D&D as an example, you would be using a D20 in order to determine how high your roll was potentially. In this game, you would simply be rolling a D6, and then you would be adding the stats that you already have to the D6 to get your total, which means that it is really imperative that you have good stats for specific types of of play for specific types of skills, because it's the stats by itself. It's going to make or break the situation. So, well, for the most of that part of that, this has been High Winds. Is that it comes to us from Scalebound Games. Go ahead and once again, you can check out the Kickstarter for High Winds over here on Kickstarter.com/Scalebound Games/High Winds, and also give them a follow right here on Blue Sky. Is that this game is going to be coming out, and I'm more than happy to put my money forward to be one of the first people to grab a copy of this. What is this very promising Sky Pirate based TTRPG engine. So, I think, okay, so we have almost hit the 2-hour mark, like right on the nose. I'm probably not going to continue this with a Let's Play. I'm probably just going to do another Let's Play during an unscheduled part of the evening on Monday. So I'm probably going to be doing that instead. I actually need some time to think about and pick out which game that I might want to be playing. But in the meantime, though, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a raid. Let's see. I think that I would like to pay a visit to, let's see, say Rainy Retin is on. So is Banshee Boo. Let me see. I would like to pay a visit to Nightmare Decay, Brianna RPG. Okay, we're gonna go over to Strubly right now. They're in the middle of a live with their friends Williker and Coach Carter VT, and they are in the middle of doing an art stream. Let's go ahead and let's pay them a visit. So, thank you everybody once again for tuning in to another episode of Bringing the RPG Cat. Well, I'm more than likely going to be back tomorrow, and I'm going to pick out a game to play then. But in the meantime, though, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you very much to Scalebound Games for giving us this preview book so that we would be able to review it tonight. As once again, I'm looking very forward to when the final version of the book is going to be coming out. In the meantime, though, thank you everybody for tuning in. My name, remember that BRNY means smart. Nothing is too hard if you use your head. Always be the change that you want to see in the world. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.